All right, hello and welcome to Political Voice. I'm Moses Humphrey. Now, yesterday, the Presidential Election Petitions Court rose from 5 months of sitting to hear the petitions filed by the candidates challenging President Bola Tinubu's victory at the 2023 general election. Well, the meat of the matter is that the president's victory has been upheld. And all else is, well, cases are still on. But where does this leave the grounds for the two primary challengers, Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar? They have one choice, though, which will be to head for an appeal of the ruling of the tribunal. But how certain are they that the Supreme Court will turn the tide in their favor? Because that's what they seek, for the tides to be turned in their favor. Well, for now, we have a conversation on our hands, which is to ask whether the tribunal's outcome was a reflection of the thoughts of the people, or a reflection of justice according to the cases, the things that were brought before the tribunal. Well, I have with me in the studio former Commissioner of Police of your state, CP Chuks. Good to have you with us in the studio.
Good morning to you, Moses, and
now,
good morning to the viewers.
Okay, so now let's talk about the tribunal.
Yes.
It took 5 months.
Yes.
5 months. They had a whole lot to look at. They went through all the documents and the summons and everyone that was questioned and all of that, and all of that culminated in the judgment that we saw yesterday. Well, Nigerians are divided, of course, in this regard as to how the judgment went, if it was a true, if it was true justice for democracy. But what are your thoughts, really?
The whole hog, or the whole process of the tribunal, had been followed, and it took them that while. And at the end of the day, they came out with a ruling. And to be frank with you, I wasn't surprised with what I saw.
But was that what you expected?
I expected it would go that way. I did. And, well, on points of law, I would not really want to go into details, because I know obviously the contenders from LP and from the PDP will surely head for the apex court to go and challenge the outcome of yesterday's ruling. And if you look at that ruling vis-a-vis the laws, the enabling laws,
yeah.
I mean in terms of the Electoral Act and the Constitution, you see a lot of variance. If you pick only Section 134 of the Constitution and look at it holistically, you'll be wondering how the tribunal
arrived at your judgment.
Arrived at that judgment. It is seriously a variance.
Okay, so now pointing to the fact that there's a conflict between your understanding of the Constitution, yes, and the judgment given. Yes. How so? How is it that was what you expected? Is it that you expected the judgment to go the way it went, regardless of what the Constitution stated?
You see, the thing is this: we had seen the signs earlier on, and a legal pundit and luminary in the person of Olisa Abakoba, SAN, who has been in legal practice for over 45 years. If you look at the interview he granted some months back, he said he's not sure of what the judiciary is all about anymore. And he gave instances with what happened in Imo State, where somebody that came fourth suddenly came first, courtesy of the Supreme Court. He gave other instance with Lawan, who was the former Senate president, as well as the present Senate president. Two of them were in Ego Square, slotting it out to become commander-in-chief of Federal Republic of Nigeria. They never took any nomination to go to Senate. Then suddenly, how come the Apex Court gave judgment in their favor that they should, that they are the rightful candidates that should go for the senatorial thing. So, and he said that it has come to a point that even, if I can remember exactly what he said vividly, that it has come to a point that there may be clamor soonest that whatever decision that is taken at the Apex Court, which is the Supreme Court, may be subject to parliamentary review, because a situation whereby 7 people will just sit down and take a decision that affects the lives of more than 200 million people, you know, is taking a dimension that seems not to be conducive, you know, for growth of democracy and for the, you know, a reflection of what is the yearnings and aspirations of the people.
Okay. Now, let me pick up from what your last point, yearnings of the people.
Yes.
You know, there was this conversation we had that, not you and I, you know.
Generally.
Yes.
Yes.
A conversation about the yearnings of the people and what judges see. Judges, do you think judges will respond based on what is perceived as the yearnings of the people or what is perceived as evidence brought before it?
No, you're right with the last statement. The judges look at evidence brought before it. And at the same time, while doing that, while looking at the evidence, they have to look at it holistically. They should tie it to the points of law. And that is why I said, I don't need to go into details. Any layman can pick the Constitution. It's available all over the place. They should go and look at sections 134 from the beginning to the last paragraph. And then you analyze it vis-a-vis what they gave to us by way of ruling or judgment yesterday.
You don't think that was their own interpretation of everything?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's their own interpretation.
How does this affect election cases going forward? This interpretation, especially that the
134.
Yeah,
Section 134.
Yes.
You see, it is coming to a point where the people, and even the legal practitioners, will now lose total confidence if care is not taken in what is happening in the judiciary. It appears or it seems that that may be the direction the thing will go. Because it's not issue of sentiments. The law does not, you know, accommodate emotions. It goes to the thing based on points of law. So if people should take out time and gather all the necessary evidence required to prove their case, and overnight those things are just thrown out, they are not in any way upheld, you now begin to wonder. And that's why I said that what Olisa Agbakoba said came to pass. If you go and look at that interview, you come to agree with me that the man foresaw the direction the thing was going. Because he said, left for him, with his experience and years of practice, he will tell you the direction the thing is going. But whatever he says may not be in tandem with what those people, the 5 jurists, the judges, will come up with. So he was like, let us watch and see the thing to the end.
All right, now, an elder statesman, Chief Bode George, made a statement earlier in the week
Yes.
that regardless of the judgment, regardless of what the judges had, that it would not be right for a few people to decide the fate of the country. And he called for a rerun. I don't know if you heard that statement, but he said regardless of what it was, that the judgment was going to be, he would have suggested a rerun. Now, talking about meeting the yearnings of the people, do you think a rerun would have been appropriate
Well, a rerun.
as against the affirmation that was given?
No. The rerun will be on what basis? That's the question you ask. There has to be a basis for you to talk of rerun, and it has to be in tandem with the laws. The laws we are talking here is the Constitution and the Electoral Act. If there are grounds for a rerun based on the position of the quantum of evidences that has been adduced before the 5 juries, I mean, that would have been the direction to go. But once there is no pronouncement in that direction, there's no way it will come up. It cannot hold. And you see, from the ruling yesterday, they cleverly avoided that area. They avoided a lot of, they didn't touch the issues. And that is why everybody, because I've been getting calls from home and abroad, everybody was shocked to their marrow. I say, well, why will you be shocked? This is Nigeria. A lot of things happen here. The only thing there is that my advice for the general public is to remain calm and see the thing to the end. You know, and good enough, from the lead counsel for both the PDP and
the
LP,
Labour Party, yeah.
they are waiting to get copies, you know, certified copies of the ruling with a view to meet up with the requirement in terms of deadline to move to the apex court.
Now, that's another issue. Getting certified copies of the ruling. A lawyer in court yesterday did request for that, and he was told to wait till today.
Yes.
As the ruling would be, you know, put together,
Exactly.
filed, and then photocopied and presented to them.
That is the duty of the court registrar. They will do that.
Shouldn't it have been done in such a way that those things would have been filed already and kept on the side, or probably even distributed while the reading was going on, as against doing it later? Because now they have a limited time to file their appeal.
They'll still meet up
at the Supreme Court.
You
don't think there will be a delay?
No, it won't. It won't. You know, as a matter of procedure, in the past, nobody binds such things and give you. The judges will take their time, bring out the ruling. Then after that, the chief registrar and administrative arm will do the needful. They'll get all those things, you know, bind them, get them together, get them certified. Then the counsels for possibly either the plaintiff or defendant who is not satisfied with the outcome can go ahead and process and apply and take possession of them and then move on.
So they have 60 days now, right?
That's what it is.
Now, is your mind made up of what the Supreme Court will
Of course, my mind is, I know where the thing, I know the direction is going.
I'm not going to preempt, let's not preempt the Supreme Court.
Yes, I won't do that. But I already I know where the thing will go.
Ah.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes, but it's a discussion for another day. Maybe after that 60 days.
After the 60 days.
By God's grace.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Now let's focus on this now. Now there's a problem about there's a problem with the place of substantive justice suffering on the altar of technicality. Now,
Yes.
is this good? Is this good for for democracy?
Well,
Politics, is it good for it?
well, what we are seeing is a new development that it has never been like this before. It has never been like this before. But it is an experience. It's a lesson for both the general populace and for the politicians themselves, and even for the other arms of government, especially the judiciary. It's quite an interesting development, but we need to be very, very careful because, you know, there's a threshold or a point people will get to. One cannot predict what their reaction will be. People may pretend to be docile and they may pretend to be stupid and quiet, but all seems not to be well if you read the landscape and the reaction of the people. It may be quiet. Let me even give you 2 or 3 instances. From what I saw within these last 24 hours, I saw where a lawyer or a legal practitioner, though the face was not shown, or he may not even be a legal practitioner, but he was trying to reflect the anger in what has been going on, carried his wig.
The wig, okay, I saw the video.
And incinerated it, you know, to say that there is absolutely no justice anymore in Nigeria. So that people should now get set for self-help. You know what that means? That they should get set to take laws into their hands. That's the direction the man was, you know, suggesting, which is not the best for a growing democracy and a developing country like ours. It shouldn't get to that point. You know, it is something that is disturbing. It is something that is very, very worrisome, you know. And I saw another bit too, where people were like saying, why did they even waste our time to go and get PVCs? We thought they were even arranging elections.
This will now raise or renew voter apathy.
Not only voter apathy, no matter what you come up with in terms of voter education, many people will not be interested. People will now be thinking and working underground in a way to thwart whatever those who believe that they have the might and the financial muscles to, you know, enthrone themselves or force themselves on the people. Then the people will look for ways to counter that, because it's like the thing has gone, is deteriorating or degenerating to that point.
For ways to counter that, or people will just, you know, decide to go back into their shell like it was in the past, where nobody even bothered to vote, saying they already know who's going to win. I mean, you are here. You already knew how the case was going to go.
Yes.
Regardless of the fact that
you see,
judgment is supposed to be blind.
I am not speaking for the people, but I can feel, yes, I can feel the pulse of the people, because, you know, sometimes we interact with people at the grassroots, and when they talk, I will only be telling them, calm down, no. don't even go in that direction. They say, okay, if you want to force yourself on us, you will remain in Abuja. You can't come down here. Come back here. Let us see how you come here to raise that muscle. And maybe by the time you come here, we'll see the home where you are going to lay your head. You can see the direction the people at that level are thinking. That means they will just raise down your house and then wait for you to come and ask questions, because it has reached to the brim. And I thought we are growing, that we are developing. We shouldn't allow things to go to that extent.
Talking about developing.
Yes.
And Nigeria being a developing democracy.
Yes.
We are over 20 years.
24 years precisely,
24
heading
years.
to 25.
A 24-year-old
Yes.
should be working. Should a 24-year-old
Would have been a mother if
individual.
it's a lady. For a man,
Of
he would
course.
have been out of school by now.
Of course. So,
Yes.
judging our democracy at 24, I mean, we cannot compare ourselves in terms of experience to the likes of the U.S.,
No way.
who are over 100 years gone in democracy. already.
200.
Aha. We can't compare ourselves to them. But so far, you just said that we shouldn't be at this level. So far, what level do you think we should be, really, at this time in our democracy?
I thought we could have gone higher than what we have.
So where did this take us back to?
Possibly, I mean, up to 2015, we saw democracy in action, whereby a sitting president lost an election and conceded. And I believe he would have borrowed what happened in Ghana, because it happened first in Ghana around that 2014, 2015. So we were not surprised when it happened here. And the man didn't want to use the executive powers of commander-in-chief. He could have done that. Maybe at the end of the day, lives would have been lost. And he would have either canceled the election and said that there are malpractices here and there, and order for a rerun. And then within the rerun, there will be apathy. Before you know it, the man would take back the position. But he didn't do that. So what we are seeing now, it's it's sending signals that I don't know. Everybody that called or spoke to me one way or the other is showing resentment. Everybody. Not just from one part of the country, across the federation, from all the regions, irrespective of tribe, irrespective of religion. Some of them were asking, why wouldn't the judiciary, where everybody has hope, why wouldn't they follow what the laws have said? And then give it to us the way it is. Even if it entails a rerun. But it has gone the way it did. Anyway, for me, I have absolutely no interest in the sense that I am not in any. I am not in any political party. I'm not a member of any political party, so I can't say that
Yeah, you're supporting one of them.
Yes, I'm not supporting any of the candidates.
But
my own is let's have good governance.
Neither are we here in a political party, but we are Nigerians.
We are.
And we are looking at the Constitution.
Yes.
We're looking at what we were told.
Exactly.
Nigerians were told that, look, that there will be a transmission of votes to the IREV where you can view it for transparency.
Exactly.
You can view it. You can look at it and say, okay, this is what it is. And then you can draw your permutations from there.
That's right.
But unfortunately, now the courts have told us that INEC did not do wrong by not having electronic transmission.
Exactly.
And it was the prerogative of INEC.
Yes, to do it anyhow they like, whichever way they.
What do you make of that statement? Really?
That statement is very, very inappropriate. It's a very wrong statement to make. That is why we will all be calm and watch the way it will play out at the apex court. It is good. They should take the thing to apex court. Let us watch. Then by the time we are done with that, we will now know the direction.
Well, are you sure you want to watch? Because you just said here that you even know how it will play out over there.
Of course. So, the watching is to confirm whether my own calculations will go in line with what is going to play out. Because yesterday I followed the ruling as it was being reeled out. Yes, as it was being reeled out yesterday. And I said, I knew it would go this way. My instinct told me that after listening to Olisa Bakoba, SAN, I knew that a lot of things will go in that direction.
Now, Peter Obi of Labour Party was said not to have provided, enough evidence to back his claims. And, it led a lot of Nigerians on social media to even, throw tantrums at the lawyers of the Labour Party for what seemed like they didn't do enough job, enough work to bring their cases forward. What do you make of all of that?
Those things are just statements that whoever is in a position to reel out judgment will look for words to put in for and justify that as his reason for taking the decision he has taken. So I'm not surprised to hear things like that. I wasn't surprised. I mean, if they could get to the extent of telling them that they didn't point at the polling stations or polling booths where the thing was perpetrated, how do you degenerate to that extent? I mean, it's no longer a level playing ground. In the past, have you ever seen a thing like that?
If you say that your votes were rigged,
yes,
your votes were stolen,
yes,
in 170 something polling stations,
yes,
you should have certain proof. So how come they didn't get the proof?
Then you would have asked INEC again. The ones they declared with blood papers and with alterations and all that. So why did they use that one to declare the results? So when you look at it this way, you also look at it that way. You now see that there is no balance in both the position of the INEC and what was read out as ruling yesterday. So that is why a lot of people still have doubts in getting justice in this country. From what played out yesterday seems to point in that direction, that many people are beginning to lose confidence in the judiciary.
Okay. Now, how do we explain the issue of the server, the shutting down of the server not working at that time? How do we explain that? What are your thoughts on that?
You
as it
see,
pertains to the case?
you see, if
these are technical issues.
They forget that technical grammar that they are speaking. The ruling has already told us that INEC can do their things the way they want, without reference to what the Electoral Act has said.
Electoral acts that they wrote.
Yes. That they can decide midway and say they won't go on, electronic transmission anymore, that manually they are satisfied. And they go ahead and announce what they want. And even the details for that announcement, the collation, nobody looked at that. How did we arrive at the figures you were announcing? The details we are not given. So it's a new development, it's a new concept in the school of Nigerian democracy.
All right, now let's look at some of the points raised by the court when it gave its judgment.
Yes.
For the APM, that's the Allied People's Party,
yes,
Allied People's Movement, I beg your pardon.
Yes, APM.
They said issues raised contained pre-election matters that could only be determined by the Federal High Court. Now, let's look at the Labour Party. Some of the, a breakdown of it, a summary of it. Petitions were struck out for lack of merit. All right. I'm going to just drop a few, and as you respond, I drop the others. Petitions failed to establish allegation of overvoting and inflation of votes and voter suppression. They failed to establish that. Yes, let's touch on those two first.
Like the first one, the APM.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, you say that it's supposed to be a matter for Federal High Courts. And the way the Federal High Court went about it was not satisfactory to APM. So that is why, under the grounds that made them to come
How did they go about it?
Sorry?
How did they go about it? Remind us.
Well, they had to come on appeal to the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal to challenge the grounds for...
But they say it's a pre-election matter.
No. That one had been determined at the High Court, at the Federal High Court, and the outcome was not satisfactory. So are you trying to tell us that if it is determined there, that that's the final place? There are certain cases that when it is heard in the High Court, if you're not satisfied, you move to appeal. You can even go to Supreme. Nothing stops you. Once you're not satisfied with what has... So you can't just foreclose it and say that it's a matter for a Federal High Court. So you can see the lacuna there. It is something I'm sure the party may likely take up to the Supreme Court.
In pursuance of what they feel is justice.
Of course, in pursuant to get justice.
Okay, now this one is, it has been a bone of contention for the longest time, the FCT.
Yes.
The status of the FCT.
Yes.
That was one of the
grounds,
that, we talked about winning 25% of votes in the FCT.
It's constitutional. They say that you must win 2/3.
No, but the court has said FCT is not treated specially. It's treated like every other state.
You see, they are now contradicting themselves.
Nigerians can live anywhere they want. So if Nigerians living in the FCT...
Let us go back to that 25%. Is there in the Constitution now for FCT that you will have had 2/3 of the 36 states, which is 24 states, and FCT? So, there's no discretion there, but since the jurists feel they have this discretion to waive that bit, so be it. So these other...
Are you satisfied with that, personally now? Personally?
No, I have no personal opinion. I'm just telling you the way it is.
You're Nigerian?
Yes, I am.
And
I am not an interested party. I'm not a politician.
Just as a Nigerian, as an observer.
Yes.
That's the interest here.
No. Let us get to Supreme Court first. Then when the Supreme Court would have told us what it is, then after that I can analyze further on that.
So we cannot hold on to what the appeal court said.
That is the tribunal, what they said. It is like contradicting judicial precedents. They've had precedents like that in past elections. They've had precedents like that. 2003, 2007, 2011, such issues had come up. And if you go and look for the rulings of both the one Obasanjo was challenged by Buhari in 2003, the one of 2007 against Yaradua, and the one of 2011 against Jonathan. You see where it was clearly stated in one of the points of the ruling concerning the issue of the 25% and FCT. So for now, for the thing to neither be here nor there, it's very, very interesting development.
You think times have changed?
In law, there is nothing like times have changed.
Okay, now let's touch on another aspect, another thing that was verdict. They said the judges said the Labour Party failed to show evidence that Tinubu was ever convicted in the U.S.
That one is an issue that has been overflowed, long overflowed.
A school of thought would say if he was... Now, he may not have been convicted, but there was some sort of acceptance to criminal intent
Okay.
because funds in his account were taken out.
Yes.
And if
And
those
there was a
funds were
consent.
legitimately
It was like a plea bargain.
accrued, if those funds were legitimately accrued, then
Yes.
why would you allow them take it just like that? That's another school of thought.
That's another bit.
What do you make of?
But
Yeah.
what I can make out of that is that the position of the judges is final. They didn't look at that direction. They just waived it and took their decision. In other words, what they had come up with is, if you feel aggrieved,
Go to
go
Supreme Court.
go to Apex Court. We have done our own bit. So if you have your way there, good luck to you. That's what they've done. So they have acted like Pontius Pilate in the Bible, who just washed off his hands and said, look, well, I've not seen anything wrong against Jesus Christ, but whatever it is, whatever you want to do, so be it. That's exactly what they did.
So they basically washed their hands of it.
They just carefully and deliberately washed.
But they did not just wash their hands. They affirmed the ruling. They gave a ruling. They gave a verdict. And you know, if you want to allude it to the holy books, Jesus, Pontius Pilate said, "Look, I'm not involved. You guys do what you please with this man.
Yes.
Do what you please with him."
What is different from this one?
No, this one is
Which
this one
points
is-
of law where did they draw their reference or inference to in respect of that aspect of the ruling? Where did they, in terms of judicial precedents, where did they draw their?
You tell me.
No. It's a question we should throw back to them. But the thing is that they've done their own. Let us see what happens in the Apex Court.
Okay, now the grounds of the appeal about the president being qualified or not, and that was an issue. The forfeiture in the U.S. We talked about that. The certificate issue, all of that were thrown out. Judges clearly read these matters different from the way the public, especially lawyers, interpreted it prior to the verdict, the judgment day yesterday. Why are we understanding ABC differently?
That is why I told you, the jurists in this issue clearly washed off their hands. They were trying to be smart, if I should use that word, to get off controversies. They don't want to incur the wrath of either the government, who they are serving, who pays their salaries, emoluments, and keep them there. They will not want to offend them. And at the same time, they also want to be clever, not to come out outrightly and offend the populace, whom they believe they'll still go back to. Because that place they are sitting, they will not be there forever. One day, they will leave those positions and come home. Or won't they go home? Or are they going to retire to Dubai and to Paris and London or New York? So, well, whatever we do.
Now, this brings me to the issue of offending the government.
Yes.
There's this talk about whether or not, first of all, whether or not INEC chairman should be appointed by the presidency. Let's talk on that. And then let's also talk on the judiciary. Why do you feel that there was outside influence in the judiciary? And if there was, should it be so?
It shouldn't be so. There is a tripod in democracy: the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. They should work hand in hand. And the other supporting pillars are like checks and balances on what the executive does. But it appears to be somewhat different from what we are seeing. Why do I say this? If you notice, during the time the Senate was screening the ministerial nominees, there were some names that could not scale through, to the extent that they had to have a recess, whereby, nothing is hidden. Some principal officers, I don't want to call specific office, had to leave the red chambers,
Travel to Aso Rock.
and move themselves to Villa to go and analyze and maybe seek permission to explain further. It shouldn't go to that extent. This is something the Senate should sit down there and, based on the facts before them, take their decision. But because it seems that some of them in those positions were handpicked by powers that be in that corridors of power in the presidency, so they believe they owe them explanation for whatever action they take in the red chamber. So where are we heading to? They try to be clever by avoiding to be confrontational to the executive. It is very wrong. And the same applies to the judiciary. They are supposed to be totally independent. And in the face of the law, provide a very level playing ground for all the parties, irrespective of region, religion, or tribe, and give justice to issues or cases, especially cases of such national and international importance to the nation. It is not something that people will certainly infer that in the end they'll begin to say that this is Nigerian factor outplaying itself. It shouldn't get to that extent. It shouldn't.
All right. Another question now. How is the validity of a candidate's nomination not a matter for the tribunal to handle?
How?
There's a case of the validity of the candidate's nomination.
Yes.
Whether or not this candidate should have been nominated. That, and we hear, okay, it's not it. That's the pre-election case, the pre-election matter.
Okay,
You're
making reference to the issue of
because it's still on my mind. How is that not a case for the tribunal?
That is the question everybody is asking, because it is very, very clear that if you are nominating a candidate, for instance, there are a number of days. They say you have to do it within so and so number of days. You do your replacement. So if you don't do it within that window, that ab initio disqualifies whoever would have come in to join the ticket. It happened in Bayelsa State. That was what removed, and it was this Justice Mary Odili that gave that judgment, that made the man of the APC who won election in Bayelsa State not to be sworn in. That the present governor never won an election. But it was on that legal grounds. I don't want to use the word technical. It's not issue of technicality. It is issue of legality. That, look, so and so person have so and so flaws. And that was ground for the nullification. That was ground for the nullification of the candidate that won the governorship in Bayelsa.
All right. Now let's bring it home a little bit. Let's come down to the fact that I asked someone this question earlier.
Yes.
The fact that Nigerians were told to be careful of violent protest, not to take to the streets. But then we saw Asari Dokubo and a few other people protesting. Now, were there no fears that that display would have, escalated into some sort of violence? And how come they were allowed to display even before judgment was read?
You see, this is exactly playing out what happened in 1997, 1998. Some arranged protests by the government then they enjoyed police protection. The present DSS was SSS, and even the military were giving them cover. And they were saying it's only Abacha they know, that Abacha is their man. So that one flew, it flowed. Then those who said, no, it's not possible, they broke their head, arrested them, dispersed them with tear gas, jailed them for causing disturbance of peace. So I just give you this analysis or this comparison. It seems it is the same thing playing itself out.
Why so? Why so?
Well, that will show you the level of maturity that our governance or democracy has attained. These ones were people protesting in favor of the government. So, are you the one that will go and arrest them? Because the same government will defend them. They will tell you that they applied and they have approval of government to express their support or, their feelings.
And those that have a disagreement to...
Oh, no. Those ones, they will not try it. Because those ones will now turn to miscreants, brigands, troubleshooters, and so on and so forth. All sorts of names that are negative would have been ascribed for reasons while they will pack all of them and deal with them ruthlessly and possibly dump them in Kuje and Kirikiri and so on and so forth. So we have been seeing that. That is why I always advise them that what are you going to gain if you enter the streets and begin to protest? Absolutely nothing, because the level of maturity, we still have a long way to go. Sit in your house and think of better things to do. Not only that, think of how to cross this hurdle of survival in terms of paying fees for your children, in terms of the next meal on your table. Because a dead man is a dead man. You don't have opportunity of coming back to continue to look after your families.
So whether or not you agree with what is going on, just be quiet about it.
Be quiet and just manage yourself.
That's your take.
That's my take.
Okay.
If you feel aggrieved, go to court and try your luck.
And they've gone to court.
They've gone to court. And if they are not satisfied, let them go to higher court.
And after which?
After that, life continues.
Okay, so your final thoughts now. Your final thoughts.
Well, my final thought is that people should go about their lawful businesses, whether they are supporters of any political party or of any candidate or the government. They shouldn't degenerate to the extent of going to fight themselves in some neighborhoods or in some communities. They should think of the harsh and hard realities we are facing, because this is even the beginning. More will come. The way I'm seeing things unfolding.
Why so?
Well, we have not really started. When we start,
started suffering.
No. What I mean,
started working.
Yes, we have not explored the area of production. Production, is when we see the refinery start working. Let it even be one.
But the president who is currently in New Delhi, India,
yes,
is
assuring
talking about hopes of investment, $14 billion and the rest of it.
Okay, let's see how it goes.
You don't have faith in that.
Well, We have seen statements like that in the past. In the past 8 years, we didn't see the result. That's why we found ourselves where we are. Why is the economy in this state a situation where you do almost 99% of importation? It remains for us to import bottled water. How can the economy survive? An economy that depends only on oil, and the oil is subject to so much of oil theft. I mean, there are areas we need to focus more. Agriculture, grow enough food to feed the people, have reserve, and then export and earn foreign exchange. And you can't achieve that without security. You have to provide the farmers the security before they can go to farm. And then you produce. How do you get the industries back? If you look at the number of industries that have shut down, it's something of concern. How can you be spending over 90% or 95% of whatever you generate to service debts? And then you're going to borrow to finance budget for the country. How do you get out of all those? These are things that gives me concern rather than whoever is there, whether as president or the government. It's least of my worry. And okay, look at the cost of governance. Look at the number of people, the portfolios you have. Do you need them? Do you need that? Go to other civilized clime. How did they get there? No, ministers sometimes even use public transport to go to do their duties. And in the offices, they don't have staff. They don't have all this retinue of escort, convoy, pilot, SSS, police, army, or following one minister. For what? All these things are costs.
All right, then. Thank you very much, CP Chooks. Well, this is where we draw the curtains on the program today.
Thank you,
I appreciate you
for having me. Thank you very much.
That's the show for today. Political Voice will make a return tomorrow. On behalf of the team, I am Moses Humphrey, wishing you a wonderful time. Bye for now.